Hey, what's up, guys? So, I'm on my way back from work, sipping on my Java chip Frappuccino I got from Starbucks, and I'm stuck in traffic, and I'm thinking, man, I've been enjoying this game, but I do have some things I want to share. Uh, the game, you already know, Snowbreak. It's a mobile gacha game, very similar, I think, in concept and gameplay at least, to games like Remnant. I'm not talking about gacha games at the moment, but in terms of gameplay, it's very similar to Remnant. Uh, I think it's a good comparison because it's a bit slower paced, but at the same time, in some of the gameplay, some of the game modes themselves, the way the missions are structured, and some of the factions that you already encounter pretty early in the game, reminds me of Warframe, a game that I played for quite a while years ago. So it's somewhere in between there. It has a cover-based, tactical kind of cover-based system that's similar to like like the old Gears games, Gears of War, and it's also a waifu collecting game, like all of these gacha games. But I do think it has some interesting things it's going for, and I noticed that the developers are pretty responsive to a lot of the criticism that's been given. That's kind of the reason why I decided to sit down here and just give this a shot and record my thoughts. I want to start with some of the good things. So, good things, I think this is a very unique game that is unlike a lot of these other types of games. Like, we already have the action, the character action hack and slash games like Punishing Gray Raven, Honkai, now Ether Gazer as well. So, that's already a niche that's filled. We have the open world Genshin, the casual exploration and stuff like that, those types of games. We have also all kinds of tactics games, right? There's a lot, like from the Fire Emblem Heroes to the Girls Frontline, the Arc Knights. It's a tower defense game, but it's still tactical, game. So the JRPG style games like Honkai Star Rail now, there's a lot of these games that now have filled the niches. But I do think that there has been space for a game like this. I know there's another game that came out recently in China, or it's in beta, I could be wrong, that is also a third-person shooter, but that game is a PvP game. I don't know what the name was called. It was like Kalibaya or something like that. So it's very different in terms of concept. It looks kind of similar when you look at it at first, but then you realize it's a match-based PvP game, kind of like Overwatch. I think that's what they're going for. So with this game, definitely feels very specific to a crowd of people like myself who played games like Phantasy Star Online, like Warframe, like Remnant. I think the way that what they're going for, this group of people, is a very generally dedicated audience. I'm not saying that they can't be casual players, like I consider myself casual, but in the sense that these are people who are very much focused on gameplay first. So this game definitely has good gameplay. That's the next good point that I want to talk about. The hitboxes are pretty clean. I noticed that of the different enemy factions that there are in the game, there's enough physical differences in them to be able to create unique gameplay styles against them. Kind of like how in Warframe, for those of you who played it, you had the Infested, and you had the Corpus, or the high tech. There's a faction like that here, and then there's the grungy, what's it called? Like the Mad Max type of aesthetic. You have that here too. So you have quite a diversity of enemy factions. And I think that the game does a good job at having different silhouettes of character, like different enemy silhouettes with different weak spots and different abilities that they do. When you combine them, it's a fun game. Like, it definitely feels fun. And there were moments, especially when I was challenged a bit in the game, that I noticed that I was thinking kind of like, for those of you who played Doom Eternal, you remember that kind of, they're described as like this live action chess, where you're making split second reactions and deciding, should I kill this enemy first, or should I kill this enemy first, and what element or weapon would be effective against this and that. Then you switch out. There were moments I felt that this here, and I think it has a lot of potential. At the same time, the aesthetic, it's a very Death Stranding, Code Vein, like this darker, high-tech aesthetic with a bit of like the weirdness as well to it. This like tech with biological elements to it, like this immersion of the two things. And I think it's definitely feeling like a pretty unique package, this game. Now, what do I see as good things that I think have a lot of potential? That's one of the things I want to talk about before I get into some of the negative things as well, because I do want to focus on that. I think all the things that I have as comments are pretty much fixable, especially if these developers really do care about their game and they want it to have longevity. So the first thing I think has a lot of potential is boss design. The early bosses are very simple. Some of the aesthetic, so I love the aesthetic of the game overall, but some of those early bosses, they have these like weird, like the art style almost doesn't look quite like it fits. There's this guy called Gavin, which is such a weird name also for this absolute Giga Chad with a sword for his name to be Gavin. But he looks like he's really like he does not belong in this game. So that's one guy that's weird. Then, as you get later into the chapters of the game, I'm not even done with all of them because I'm kind of gated with the level at the moment. But as you get into the later chapters, I think that the design of some of the bosses gets very interesting. I think the first one that really... So visually, the first one is this like big titan that you fight. And it's visually cool because it has like the Nier Automata perspective shift stuff, which is really cool they did that. And then there's another boss later on called Cerberus, who plays very also interesting. He starts doing like a bunch of different projectile types and he switches forms. And now there's an event called the Mingdeng Ritual, which is similar to the Chinese Lantern Festival. For those of you who are familiar, it's like I think the last big festival that's part of the Chinese New Year. It's I think in like the last week. I don't remember how long the Chinese New Year festivals are, but there's a few of them. This is like the end point. So it's a cool first thing that they did here. And there's a very interesting boss in there at the end that you get to fight. I'll show you gameplay as I'm speaking about of a lot of this stuff, but the boss is very cool and he has multiple elements. As he switches from element to element, he ramps up and he adds more abilities so he's using old element abilities that you encountered when you start the fight, and he starts adding on new abilities from form to form. That's really cool. And I think that the game has a lot of potential to do really cool stuff with that. And people who like to be challenged, who like third-person shooters, maybe not even just third-person shooters, it could be people who like PGR. I'm somebody who plays Punishing Gray Raven, and I really like the bosses and how unique and challenging they can be. And I think this game definitely would fit that crowd as well. So, another thing is game modes. It has really good multiplayer so far. Most of these games, the multiplayer feels like this... How do I put it? It feels like this additional thing that strips away too much gameplay, but doesn't introduce enough to actually keep it interesting. Here, it is a bit simplified because you're playing as only one character, and the characters in the game have 3 abilities essentially. They have the main ability that you can spam, and then you have a support ability when they're not active on screen. You don't have that when you're in the multiplayer, which would be a good point. I think they should add that. I think that should go into the multiplayer. And then the third ability is the ultimate. So I think that they can definitely use what they have at the moment to build on more stuff. And the gunplay is fun enough. There are a lot of guns that feel quite different from each other. Like one shotgun has like 1 bullet, but there's a 10% chance that when it shoots, you can get like an extra bullet inside. There's another gun that's a bunch of... it has this like special ability. Another shotgun has a special ability to add attack stat when your HP is above 50% or 75%, something like that, and then below 50% it gives you defense. So that's also interesting. It kind of mixes up the playstyle. And I'm assuming as you, like in a lot of these games, as you merge duplicates of weapons or characters, but especially the weapons, some of them, even the 4 stars, are going to feel really good. I'm talking about in like the end game, like challenging gameplay. Now, the multiplayer, the boss design, I think there's a lot of cool mission structure as well. Some of the missions have elevators and like these things that are dynamic, and when it's on this survival map like the one that they have for the Mingdeng Ritual, the survival map allows you to play around with the elevators and kind of use it as a connecting bit between the different parts of the map, especially between the waves of mobs. So there's a lot of cool stuff they can do there. I think that extra game modes that are maybe even longer, more multiplayer heavy ones as well, they can definitely do a lot of cool things there. Now, I want to talk about the big elephant in the room, and this is kind of the starting point of some of the bad stuff, and then I'll explain everything that I said that I really like about the game. If you combine it with the things that I don't like about the game, I think that's where the developers, especially if they see this video by any chance, will be interesting to see how they can handle this, because I think that they need to clearly decide what type of crowd of people they're going for. And I'll explain that in a second. I want to first say how the gacha system works. So the gacha system, it has this thing called echoes. So you summon basically different characters. Like here, let me switch over to the screen here. I can show you. So you have 4 different banners, and you have the limited character banner that's available for a limited time. You have this weapon that's exclusive to the character. It's not exclusive, you can put it on other characters, but this is like the signature weapon of the character. And it gives a lot of crazy stuff for that character. Like she has this Crimson Cloud mechanic. So it's made for the character. Then you have the standard banner, which you're going to be pulling on this banner year round, and has a selected pool of characters in here. Okay, so yeah, you also have another banner that's like the standard weapon banner. Okay, so already, even at 3, but especially at 4, this is to me too many banners with too many different currencies. I think that having a different currency for every banner is so unmanageable. Especially if you can compare this to a game like Punishing Gray Raven. I'll explain later why I think this is a good comparison. I understand they're different genres, but they're still gacha games, and I still think that they're going for the same type of crowd of people. I think that having a weapon that is in a separate pool, this weapon that's the exclusive weapon, is a mistake. I think that they should, when they release a new character, they should do what Punishing Gray Raven does, where they add this weapon to the pool of the rest of the weapons, but you can select it from the menu, the oriented echo thing. You select it from here, and then you have a 50. I think they should boost this to like 60, 70%. I think 70 is good. I think PGR does 70, if I remember correctly. Do it at 70% and make it so it's not 60, but like 30 pulls, 40 pulls. I think 30 is enough. It's already too much, because you want people to play around with all these different weapons. I think these are the types of people who play this game, who are attracted to this type of game, who want to play and have build diversity. I think that's important. So I think 30 is enough for this mechanic, for the gacha weapon pools, and they should have them in one banner. The other thing I also think would be better is to get rid of the currency. Okay, so obviously this would become one currency, I think. The other thing that I think would be good is to, I don't know, but I personally don't like the idea, again, of having 2 different currencies for the limited banner, for the standard banner. I don't think this is as big of a problem, but the bigger problem is the next thing, which is that this is 80 pulls to have a 50%, it's the Genshin system, those of you who are familiar with it, where you have to pull 80 times or 90 times, here it's 80, thank God, but still, it's way too bad, 80 times to have a 50% chance to get this character. And this character is gone. Like, when the banner is over, you can't get this character until they rerun the banner. The characters are unique, they're interesting, but this is not an open world game where it's not so focused on what characters you need, but more focused on what characters you want. That's how it is, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, for all the people who play Genshin more, but I think from what I've played in that game, you're going more for a team comp. You're going more for the element combos. And yes, the characters themselves are unique and with their respective elements, but the game is an exploration game where a lot of the gameplay is tied within this open world. In this game, you have missions, and the focus is the gunplay, the shooting. And if you don't have access to the gunplay and the shooting, you don't have access to part of the game. That's why Punishing Gray Raven, I think, has a good system as well, because it's a very boss rush or, stage rush oriented gameplay where people are playing the same stage. It's all about that gameplay, all about the combat, and it's short bursts. You're not playing this game for hours like in Genshin, where you explore and you do all this like side stuff. There's not that much side stuff here. So value-wise, I think that these characters, within their respective ecosystem of the gameplay of this game, this character is a lot more important than what a character would weigh importance-wise in a game like Genshin. So, my opinion, this banner needs to be like 60 at worst. At best, I think if you guys want to like make this game a bit more generous, people can actually access these characters and play them, do 50. It's a nice round number, 50, okay? All right, so I think these are some of the problems that I have with the gacha. It's way too expensive. Also the rate, like 50% rate, man. I already missed 150%. I've given money for this game. Obviously, those of you who saw, I already have the skin for the character, the life or Life, or however her name is pronounced. I have her skin, and then I also have the battle pass. This is the next point. I'm going into it pretty directly, but I think this battle pass is horrible. It's really bad, man. Like, it's really bad. I bought it. I kind of knew that it wouldn't be too good, because like the way I know if a battle pass is going to be bad is you look at how many pulls do you get out of this battle pass, or how much currency do you get. You don't get that much. Like, you get this like 680 at the end. I'm going to get this probably in like a day or two, but this is not that much. 680 is like, what is this, 5 pulls? Like, it's nothing. So they need to fix this. They need to probably add more levels. This is very fixable with the next battle pass. I think to make people who bought the first one feel better, they can do something if they want to, but I think there are no hard feelings. Overall, I've noticed that the community is pretty positive. People have no problem giving feedback. I've given this money not expecting anything out of it. I just kind of liked the game, and I, decided, okay, I'll buy this stuff. So the daily missions, this stuff, it's fine. I have no comment. Like, the way this is so standard, the way this is structured, but I do think the rewards need work. They do need work. So I said what I think about the gacha system. I'm telling you now what I think about the battle pass system. The next thing I want to talk about is the gems. Or sorry, not the gems. The supply chests. They need to add, I think Arknights does a really good job at this. Whenever there's an event especially, you get these like really cool packs that are really worth the value, that you generally would buy them over the actual currency. And they give you good pulls for the banner. The limited banner that's going on, or you can even use it later on if you don't really care about the banner. But like here, I noticed a lot of these. Okay, so this is the manifested one, which is the one for the event character. But then there's a bunch of other ones that like, why do you need this? Like, I think they need to add more. And this is like only 10 pulls and 10 for the weapon, and this is like 5, or I don't know. Like, it's not that much what you get out of this. Yeah, okay. So these currency, like these resources here, are kind of valuable at the moment, but they shouldn't be something that you would care about, especially later on in this game. So I think that needs some work. That's the smallest out of these 3 issues I described. This could, use some work, but it's not that bad. The next thing that I really think needs work is the supplies. Or sorry, let me go to the characters themselves. So the resources that you use to upgrade characters. These logistics things, in most games, you're throwing a lot of stamina to get them, right? So this game also has this operation tab with all the resources, and here you have, if you've played Ether Gazer, this is like the sigils and the memories in PGR, the artifacts, whatever. So you're dumping a lot of your stamina in most of these games, usually for this stuff. So you can get all of the signature, what are they called here? Logistics for your characters. So surprisingly, I'm all right with this overall. I think it's maybe taking a little bit too much stamina, but it is what it is. I already have most of them, so for somebody who's played the game for like a week or two, I think it's fine. But what I do have issues with is things that in most games they're not an issue, and one of them is the currency. So let's look at this character here. I want to upgrade her, okay? Right now I have 33,000. If I upgrade her 4 levels, this is not even close to max level. Max level is like 80 or 90. It costs me about a third for these 4 levels. And I have a bunch of this XP here, but I can't use it because it's sucking up all of my currency. And you don't use this just for this thing here. You use this for the weapon upgrade. The only thing you don't spend this currency is on these neuronics, which are also a bit of an issue. Like, they really don't drop. The ones from the event dried up pretty quick. I have a bunch now farmed up. This is not that much, honestly, especially when you start getting to like the 4, like the stage 4. They take up a lot of this neuronics currency. This stuff is really cool that they've made a system where once you get a character, you can farm them. Even if it's a limited banner character that is gone, you can still farm these up. This is very cool. I commend them for this. I think this is cool. But the stuff that you upgrade, the actual characters, the operatives, and the weapons, these need work. These things also need some work, but surprisingly, it's for the currency to upgrade them, because I always am missing this. I just bought everything from the store to be able to have these purple ones, but usually I have like 0, so I have to use all these purple logistics to be able to upgrade this. So it's a bit crazy. Like, the upgrade costs need a little bit of balancing. But for the most part, these are the big things that I think if they immediately focus on within the next patch or 2, they can fix them. What I like about this game is that the developers so far, like I said, are very close, and they've done some pretty immediate changes. Like in the story here, they added the weapon, the alternative 4-star weapon for Chen Xing, who's the limited character at the moment. They did this, I think, after people complained that the weapon, the 5-star, is too expensive and hard to get. So this is cool because you can farm this, and it's unlimited. You can farm this 5 times. I think that's the max, really, to get the fully upgraded, it's 5 tiers. So once you upgrade it 5 times, you merge 5 copies of it, you'll get this boosted effect, which is cool. They need to do more stuff like that. The more people can play this game, that can get their hands on the characters, on the weapons, the more they're going to be wanting to play the game, because they're going to be experimenting with stuff, playing around. That's how these games work. The more you can play, and the less modes that consume stamina, that limit you every day, the better. I'm alright with having a stamina system for some resources. I think Punishing Grey Raven also does that well. You dump your stamina, and then you stop thinking about stamina, and you go play the actual fun modes. Like here you have the survival mode, which is surprisingly pretty cool. They need to do more stuff like this. And the more you can experiment and team build, the better. Even for casual people who don't want to spend money on the game. I think you, as a company at the moment, don't have the luxury of having a big audience like Genshin. So the more that this game feels cozy for the people that want to dedicate time to it, the better. You know, you're not maybe going to be turning as big of a profit, but at the end of the day, those people will stay. They're going to buy the skins. You make skins. I think Azurlane does a good job at this. I think PGR and Arknights as well. People spend a lot of money on the skins, because the skins, if you do a good job, and they already have done a good job. If we open this character here, I just want to show you this. If we look at this character, she has custom, so it's a unique outfit that has its own separate effects from the main outfit. It has its own voice lines. It has its own, what is this, cover display? Okay, I'm not sure what this is. But it also has a different finishing animation, right? I think it does. Active skill special effect. Okay, this is just explaining that she fires these like frost things, because the element on this character is generally a frost element. So instead here she has these like electric things she shoots. So this stuff is cool. Like, they can do a lot more of this. The only thing they need to do, the character designs are really cool in these menus and everything. They look really good. But sometimes in the game, and I'm sure from some of the footage I've shown you at this point, the characters don't look that great when the shading kicks in, like of some of the stages. Like, some stages are super bright and the characters look really washed out and bright, and other stages they just become really dark. There was a boss I fought, the Gavin boss, and the stage was super dark, and all of the colors on the character, everything is just completely dulled. I'm not saying they should be popping up like Christmas trees, but they should kind of go for some degree of realism, and the actual shading does need some work, I think, in the actual stages. So these are some of the main things I wanted to talk about. The rest of the stuff, if they keep pumping up good quality stuff, I think the good faith that people have in this game will stay. I'm sure there's something I probably missed in this video, but given that this is my first video in quite a few years, and I wanted to kind of, let me just switch this, yeah. Given that I wanted to just put my thoughts out there, this is super unstructured, like I had some notes here, but I wanted just to share what my thoughts are. Given all that, I hope all this made sense. I hope that I can see some good things coming out of this dev team. And this is a really unique game. I think people should try it out. I think it has a lot of potential. And I think, ideally, half a year or a year from now, we'll be getting some really interesting bosses that people will be looking at on YouTube videos of like no hit runs and things like that, which was one of the things that drew me into PGR. Somebody who wasn't that big of a gacha gamer, I kind of became more into these types of games. Okay, I played like Fire Emblem Heroes many years ago, like when I was in university, 2016, 17. I played it. I didn't give any money for it at the time. But that was like a very like, I didn't even look, I just looked at it as this like side, like a little mobile game. That's nothing that I ever really like went too hard into until a year ago when PGR caught my attention. So I played that along with Arc Knights, which my best friend got me into, and I really liked that too. So I tried Fire Emblem, and then I tried a bunch of other games. There's a whole story to that. It's probably an idea for a separate video, how I tried like 40 gachas in like 2 months just to see everything and see what I like and don't like. But I think these games have gone a pretty long, way. And some of these smaller companies like this company really do have potential to, push out a very interesting game and something that's different. So I'm looking forward to the future of Snowbreak. If I have any other thoughts or there's a discussion in the comments and people want to talk about stuff, I'll be down to do another video like this at some point. But thank you guys for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. All right?